Research and recording of Canadian creepies happens on the shared land and traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties. A key treaty governing this territory is the Dish with One Spoon Agreement. The treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee people binds them to share and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, settlers, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. We all share the responsibility of ensuring the dish is never empty, meaning we must take care of the land and the creatures we share it with.
This case takes place in Toronto in the mid to late 1950s. This was when Toronto was home to 700,000 people and was the second largest city after Montreal.
So cool. And the 50s were like one of my most favorite eras.
Loves the 50s, hates the 80s.
Yes, loves the 50s, extremely hates the 80s.
There's that, I was looking at that website Retro Stage. Do you know that one?
Is it like all t-shirts that have like...
It's like all the vintage clothing.
Yes. Okay.
But I'm not sure if it's legit.
Oh, that's the worst.
But it has like really nice...
There's so many things I want to buy online, but then I'm like, is this like a third-party scam?
Yeah, will it come like this though?
I don't have the money. I can't afford to be scammed. That's how like penny pinching I am right now.
That's right. It's the holiday season.
Tis the season to...
Spending money on everyone else.
Yeah. To be financially depressed. Yeah,
that's right. On a happier note,
yes.
Just kidding. This episode isn't happy at all.
I am excited for Christmas.
I'm excited for Christmas. I got Felix this really cool today or yesterday. I ordered it. It's not Lego, but it's like an excavator you put together.
Oh, cool.
But it has a motor, so you can control it from like an app.
That's sick.
So he's gonna build it, which is pretty cool.
Sometimes I buy kids, like in my family, gifts that I want to use.
That's right.
So like I bought my nephew this like ball, and it like hovers over your hand, and
cool.
And I'm like, me first.
I got one of those for Felix once, and I walked outside with it, and I went, but it was from the dollar store, and I walked outside with it and read the instructions because it said do not use inside. Yeah. And it was like, turn on, and I went, okay. So I turned it on, and then it went, let go. So I went, okay. And I let it go, and up it went.
Never to be seen again.
Never to be seen again.
Oh,
I was like,
Felix just like, Mummy.
I was like, well, there it goes.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it.
Yeah, it just goes up into the air one time.
Yeah, he's like, oh, interesting.
What a toy.
Yeah.
It was funny.
I am excited. There's several gifts that I'm giving my nieces and nephews. I'm going to be like, here, Auntie will tell you, I'll set it up for you. Now go sit over there while Auntie plays with this for 10 minutes.
Why don't you videotape me doing this unboxing?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, we want to
Auntie needs content for the internet.
Yes, exactly.
That's going to be me one day. Felix, hold the camera.
Yeah. Oh, he'll gladly do it.
We tried to get him to take pictures at our work Christmas party the other day. They did not turn out. Oh, they were funny.
Bless his heart. Oh, that makes him even better then.
Yeah, he tried very hard though. Yeah. He did try, and then when he realized he was failing, he started messing around.
You could always put a camera on Daisy.
Always. Oh, yeah. I would love that. Yeah. Just see what she does. It's just like mostly looking at me.
Yeah. Dogs would have the best point of view.
They do.
And Richard too.
Yeah. Richard is, he would just get all the dusty corners.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. Gotta get up there with the...
That's okay.
All right, should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
Okay, so we are talking about today. Today, we are discussing Canada's youngest serial killer.
Love it. I mean, I don't love it, but like I love it.
Right. Well, people who I speak to... like outside the pod, who I sometimes like work colleagues who I'll throw ideas by. I was like, have you heard of Peter Woodcock? And they were like, no. And I was like, well, perfect. Great case then.
Yeah, it's nice to like, even for me, because I do like mostly listening, but I've listened to all the big cases, like a lot of them, you know?
Yeah.
So it is refreshing to hear one that's not so although maybe he is well known in certain parts, but it's not like I'm talking about like Ted Bundy and like, you know, we all know Jeffrey Dahmer. We all know.
Yeah. Been there. Heard about that.
TV series done. We got it. Yeah. Movies made. Yeah. Seen them.
So it's good to highlight some Canadian crime. And also, I did see, you know, like I think Generation Y maybe did a podcast on this guy. And so did Canadian True Crime, which is an Australian girl, I think, who hosts that. I
have to brush up on more. I'm so bad for listening to Dateline. That's all I listen to. And, well, a lot of them are American.
Right.
Like Murder in America.
Yeah.
Love them. Oh my gosh, they're so good. But, so maybe all these like Canadian cases that we're going to touch on, I may not even be familiar with.
Yeah. I also think it's great I always think it's good to, you know, highlight the victims and just give a moment of like,
I mean,
you know, love for the victims and the victims' family.
Because it can be a little insensitive when, like, that's why I think there was a whole bunch of people that were upset over the Dahmer show because they were like, you first of all, you got it wrong. Secondly, how insensitive are you towards there are actual, you know, victims that survived, and they're watching this and you're making a mockery. Like, so it is, I think that's a smart call. Not only smart, but it is sensitive towards, you're not just making an episode about, you know, people dying in gruesome ways.
Yeah. And these are actual people.
Yeah. They have
with stories and families.
And
they deserve to be, I think these people deserve to be remembered.
100%.
Especially, you know, amongst Canadians.
Yeah.
All Canadians.
Yeah.
Okay, so Peter Woodcock was born March 5th, 1939 in Peterborough, Ontario.
Oh my gosh, that's where I did all of my winter work.
Oh.
That's where whenever I drove truck, it was always through Peterborough.
Oh, that's funny.
So I could have even driven past like I'm talking, I was all throughout Peterborough. So maybe I passed
like through some sites.
Yeah, somewhere that he maybe walked
the streets of Peterborough.
It's kind of cool when you think about stuff like that.
It is cool.
Like when we had what's his face, Paul Bernardo, in our like little Port Dalhousie.
Yeah.
To walk past his house when it wasn't demolished.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, like he's iconic.
Yeah.
Not in a good way.
Yeah, in a bad way.
In a bad way. Like an iconic being like sadistic piece of shit.
Yeah.
And it's within arm's reach right now. I could touch the front step.
Yeah, that was wild.
It was wild, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
And having friends who, like, live on that street.
Oh, yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
His mom's name was Wita Woodcock. She was 17 and gave him up for adoption after only 1 month of breastfeeding him.
Wow.
So she didn't even wean him off or anything. Adoption agency records report that the newborn had feeding problems and cried constantly. So Peter was just like a crying baby all the time.
Peter from Peterborough.
Yeah, Peter from Peterborough. I think probably that's why she named him Peter.
Petey, yep.
As an infant, he stayed in various foster homes and was unable to bond with any of his foster parents, which is sad.
That is really sad.
After his first birthday, he became terrified of anybody approaching him. His speech was incoherent and described as a strange, whining animal noise. So that's all around the time of his first birthday. So he's having a hard time communicating, and he has like no stability at all, which has got to be hard because kids, one thing about kids is they love routine.
That's not a really good tone to set, I would say.
Yeah. He didn't have the greatest start to life.
I wonder if that's like, maybe that goes to show. No, we've touched on this before because some of these killers have had great upbringings. But
Clifford Olson, Cody Ledybokoff.
Right. Yeah, that's
both
right.
Fine upbringings.
But maybe for some, it actually does make a difference. Like their
totally.
This right here doesn't sound like it's off to a good start.
Yeah, no. He was physically abused by at least one of his foster parents.
Okay,
because it was
that's
the 50s.
Adding to it. Yeah, that's fine.
With a 2-year-old Peter having to be given medical treatment for an injured neck after receiving a beating.
Wow.
So there's trauma.
At two?
At 2.
Poor little, okay.
I know. You want to have empathy for the guy, but...
You can in that stage. He was innocent.
Right. You're right. You
know?
Can. He was just a kid.
He was just a child.
At the age of 3, he was placed into a stable home.
Okay.
So that's good. His foster parents were named Frank and Susan Maynard, and they were an upper middle class couple with another son.
Maynards.
The Maynards.
I'm thinking of the candy.
Yeah, those are delicious.
Delicious.
Susan was described as a forceful woman with an exaggerated sense of propriety.
Okay.
Like an exaggerated sense of self-worth.
Okay.
Basically, like she would like a Karen. Susan was a Karen.
Yeah, my expression is like, okay.
Ugh. Susan was fond of Peter despite his screaming.
Okay.
So all this kid did was scream.
I have no patience.
Yeah,
I'm not good with kids.
No.
A screaming kid through the window. No, I'm just kidding. But still, that's, yeah.
By the age of 5, Peter remained socially maladjusted and became the target of neighborhood bullies.
Okay, this kid is taking a beating.
Literally.
Okay.
And figuratively.
The tone is terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible tone.
He did not have a great time.
No. How old is he at this point? Like
5.
5?
Yeah.
Every year of his life,
Every year of his life has been really bad.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
awful. Susan and Frank were very worried about his emotional state, and they frequently brought him to sick kids where he would receive extensive treatment.
Well, they took him to, they got him treated.
Yeah. Well, they were trying anyway.
But what would sick kids do?
Well, sick kids in Toronto, so...
Yeah, I mean, like, what would they would treat him for,
his
like, mental health.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peter was sent to private school, eventually.
Okay.
But failed to make friends or interact successfully with his peers and remained isolated. By age 11, he was described as an angry little boy. Well, I'd be pretty pissed, too.
I'd be pretty pissed.
I'd be pretty upset.
Yeah.
It would be really hard to adjust after that. But a lot of people have life circumstances like that and don't kill people, so...
It's true. And he's eventually going to cope somehow in a way that creates pain. Right?
That's right. Okay. If not given proper treatment.
Yeah.
And I'd say mental health treatment still isn't exactly top tier.
Oh my gosh, it is not top tier at all.
Yeah, right? Like,
it is
the Canadian healthcare system being free, but
it's flawed.
There's a lot you have to navigate yourself.
Yeah, and if you're not in the mindset to do so, like, you're left in like just a puddle to like not drown in, but it's a flawed system.
It's a flawed system. A Children's Aid Society report from that time, so from like around the time Peter was 11, it read, slight in build, neat in appearance, eyes bright and wide open, worried facial expression, sometimes screwing up of eyes, walks briskly and erect, moves rapidly, darts ahead, interested and questioning constantly in conversation. He attributes his wandering to feeling so nervous that he just has to get away. In some ways, Peter has little capacity for self-control. He appears to act out almost everything he thinks and demonstrates excessive affection towards his foster mother. Although he verbalizes his resentment for other children, he has never been known to physically attack another child. Peter apparently has no friends. He plays occasionally with younger children, managing the play. When with children his own age, he is boastful and expresses determinedly ideas which are unacceptable and misunderstood.
Okay.
Signs of Woodcock's violent fantasies were present at this time also.
What were the signs?
Yeah. A social worker that was walking with him at the Canadian National Exhibition reported him muttering, "I wish a bomb would fall on the exhibition and kill all the children." I assume he resented
Jesus
other
Christ.
kids. Yeah, that's an awful thing to say. But at 11, you don't know what you're saying.
Well, yeah, and if you've been bullied too.
You've been bullied, yeah. And you're like, I wouldn't like other kids either.
Yeah.
I gotta stop siding with this guy.
I'm
not siding with him, but I have empathy for him. I have empathy for children.
And when this is young Woodcock, so it's like he hasn't committed anything yet, and he's obviously been through abuse.
Yeah. Peter was eventually sent to a school for emotionally disturbed children in Kingston, Ontario.
Oh, wow.
This This is where he began acting on his strong sexual urges with other children, which he's 12 now, so hormones. Right? Hormones, no proper guidance. No. He's always had all this excessive energy and anger he hasn't known how to cope with and hasn't had an outlet for. So it's like, what I'm about to say, it's like, obviously this was going to happen.
Yeah. It's like inevitable.
Yeah. And this is the way I think mental health professionals at this time and just like adults at this time would have failed not only Peter, but his peers, because they put his peers at risk by not. And I can appreciate maybe there wasn't the same amount of research or science or whatever, but I do think throughout every decade when it comes to the pseudosciences, like the mental health sciences, there is some blatant laziness and disregard for
1,000,000%. I'm like, we didn't fucking give lobotomies at one point for, like, are you fucked?
Yeah. Like, wild.
It's wild. That's like the only way to describe it is wild.
Wild. Or bananas.
Bananas. Jiminy crickets.
He stated he had intercourse with a 12-year-old when he was 13.
Okay.
When he turned 15, he was discharged from the school and returned to live with his foster parents.
Okay.
At 16, he left private school again and was sent to a public high school where children from the neighborhood instantly recognized him and resumed the bullying. Oh my God, like 11 years later.
He's like, I thought I escaped it.
He's like, no.
No. Psych.
I'm taking your lunch money. And it was the 50s. Ugh, I just picture like Stand By Me.
Time for a swirly.
Oh. He transferred back to private high school 6 weeks later.
Okay, he is just going back and forth.
Just ping-ponging through life.
Like steps forward, multiple steps backwards.
Yeah.
Well,
while his peers shunned him, his teachers remembered him as a very bright student who excelled in science, history, English, and who frequently scored 100% on his tests.
That's impressive.
So impressive. But now we're going to move into his early crimes and his crimes. So remember, he is Canada's youngest serial killer.
Okay.
So he had to have killed more than 3 people, and he's young. He's a teenager. Peter's prized possession was a red and white Schwinn bicycle on which he continued his compulsion to wander. So he just like biked throughout the T-Dot.
It like sounds therapeutic.
I know. I feel like
I loved biking.
Yeah. Biking was so fun.
That was so fun.
So fun. You know what else is fun? Swimming.
Oh, I love swimming.
Swimming is so good.
I just looked up like the Niagara City like aquatic center.
Yeah.
Like lengths. That's what it's called. Like length swimming. So you're just going back and forth, but even that sounds therapeutic to me.
Yeah. So fun.
Yeah.
And just being in the water is nice. It's grounding.
Yeah. I biked everywhere.
Yeah.
It was like that country road song. Country road.
Bike me home.
Yeah, exactly.
To the place.
I could 100%. I could see why people would just wander on a bike leisurely. Like you can just, it's easy to just get lost in a neighborhood. Just
tooting on that bike.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's a teen.
And he had a lot of stuff to work out.
Yeah.
But here we go. He rode his bike to the far reaches of the city, even during the deep, cold Toronto winters.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far.
The man was dedicated.
You had me at winter. I mean, yeah. You didn't have me at winters. I mean,
I was done at winter.
Yeah.
While doing this, he used his imagination and evolved a fantasy in which he led a gang of 500 invisible boys on bikes called the Winchester Heights Gang.
Oh, like he led it?
Yeah, he imagined this. So he was like biking around Toronto, imagining like 500.
Come on, guys.
Let's go.
Yeah.
500. Let's go. His foster parents were aware of this fantasy and his compulsion to wander, but they were unaware that he had begun traveling around Toronto on his bike and sexually assaulting children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they were like, "Oh, little Petey's just going for a bike ride again. He's going to lead the. He's going on a bike to lead the Winchester Heights Gang," and they're unbothered because they know they're
Winchester Heights Gang. Okay.
Okay. Now we're gonna talk about the murder of sweet Wayne Millette.
Wayne Millette. It's a good name.
Right?
Another name.
I can't. What's funny? So my stepdad's name is Wayne.
Yep. Wayner, yep.
Waynerade. But it's always like Wayne to me is such an adult man's name.
It's such an adult man's name.
Imagining a little boy called Wayne.
I'm Wayne.
Yeah. Like, are you?
Yeah.
Like there's no.
I think. Yeah.
I'm like, yes, sir.
Yes.
Wayne's ready for a business meeting.
I'm actually 40.
Yeah. Okay. So the day of Wayne's murder, the family who had traveled from Kingston to see their grandmother, it was Wayne had 4 siblings and his parents. The older boys decided to go see a movie after visiting with their grandmother for a while. So they were like,
love the movies.
I'm bored. I'm going to the movies.
Ugh.
Wayne asked to go with them, but the older brothers didn't want their younger sibling tagging along, so they left for downtown without him.
Respectfully so. I mean, I was the younger sibling.
Right.
My brother didn't want anything to do with me.
Hey, come on.
Yeah, don't you want to hang out with me?
With your little haircut.
Yeah. He's just like, get away from me.
Yeah. He was just about to enter grade 2. He had blonde hair, brown eyes, and a cheeky smile.
Sounds cute.
Right? As soon as the brothers left, he went outside of his grandma's to play and wandered his way to the grounds of the CNE.
Loved the CNE. I always went to the CNE.
Really?
Always.
I think I've maybe been once.
Every year, like as kids, not when I became like in my 20s, I was like, I'm not fucking going to that.
Yeah, I'm not going to that.
But always
come and
went.
Celebrate Toronto and do everything you want to at the X.
Good times.
You can sponsor us if you want.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
Give us free passes.
Tiny Tim's Donuts.
Never had them.
They shake them in the bag. Oh, they're so good.
Sounds good. The Cronut. Isn't that where the Cronut was invented?
Oh, maybe.
They always have that wild exhibition.
The CNE also had like, not Elton John, but like David Bowie was there.
What?
Like their performers back in the day were elite.
Wow.
Now it's like a,
shoestring in the boxes.
Exactly.
And the small kid comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's actually really good.
Really good. But yeah, it's not like friggin' Led Zeppelin or David Bowie.
On September 15th, 1956, 17-year-old Peter was riding his bike around the grounds of the exhibition place. It had closed for the season.
Okay.
So this is going to be where the lives of Peter and Wayne intersect.
Right.
And just for our listeners who don't know, the exhibition place is a publicly owned mixed-use district in Toronto, located by the shoreline of Lake Ontario. Mm-hmm. It's just west of downtown.
Yeah.
I had a note here to sing the Let's Go to the X commercial, but I did that organically. So
yeah. It's
basically a fairgrounds where there are wild food vendors, entertainment like music, there are rides, games,
exhibitions. Yeah.
Thank you.
One building was for like farm animals. One building was for like coins and like artifacts. And then there was like a building that had fell off the truck kind of like clothing, just bins of clothing. It was crazy.
Whoa.
It was so fun.
I want to go.
Obviously the animals were the best, like little piglets and stuff.
Maybe I'll go this year.
And like Buddy would get shot out of a rocket.
What?
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like a good time.
Not a rocket, cannon. Cannon guy.
I've underestimated the X, I think.
Well, this was back in the day. Apparently it's shit now, so I wouldn't even waste your time going.
All right. I'll pretend I went back in the day.
I'm like, unless you want food poisoning from
the Cronut?
Or like Chinese food or whatever.
So at the X is where...
Chinese food. Don't want anybody to... Anyways. Food poisoning.
Chinese food.
Yeah. Not from the Chinese. That's very
from
rude
the Chinese.
of me.
Yeah, the Chinese are not going to poison us. We don't think that.
No.
So sweet, innocent 7-year-old Wayne was at the X, and so was Peter, and that is where they unfortunately met.
Okay.
Peter lured Wayne out of sight and then strangled him to death.
My God.
Really sad. Wayne's body was found in the early morning of September 16th. It appeared his clothing had been removed, and then he had been redressed.
Oh, wow.
His face was pushed into the dirt, and bite marks were found on his body. One on his calf and one on his buttock.
I was just going to say.
There was no evidence of sexual assault.
How old was Wayne?
7.
That's so sad.
I know. Pennies were scattered near the body, and Peter had also defecated next to the body.
What?
I imagine that means he pooped.
Yeah.
He just had a poop next to poor sweet Wayne.
He shit himself.
That's awful.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Night watchman George Sinclair was beginning his rounds at the CNE grounds when a teenager on a bicycle rode up to him. George had amazing attention to detail and saw this teen was 14 to 16 years old with a slight build, over 5 feet tall, with dark-looking hair that had been combed and parted to one side and had horn-rimmed glasses, a pimply face, and was wearing a dark windbreaker. I'm like, wow, that do remember.
Yeah, that is very, attention to detail for sure.
The teen asked George if he was a police officer. George said no, but the teen asked some strange questions, like, did you ever find any bodies in the bushes? The teen asked if he did find a body, what would he do? George was unsettled by this conversation, as I would be too. If some teenager's like, what would you... He rides up on his bike. Shh. That's him stopping.
Yeah.
Shh. What would you do if you found a body? I'd be like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I'm getting as far away from you as I possibly can.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but you creep me out.
Yeah. Back at Wayne's grandma's house, Wayne's mother, Irene, noticed, so this is before, like, his body was found. Wayne's mother, Irene, noticed that her younger son was missing and went outside to call for him, and he never came.
Oh, that's terrible.
She became frantic, and her husband, Jack, said the likely explanation was that little Wayne had just gone to the movies with his brothers. Mm-hmm. Irene had her doubts, but at least that theory gave her a little bit of hope. As a mom, you're like, you would know. You would you hear about moms, like, having that feeling and just knowing, like, their child is no longer of this earth.
They know. I've heard that multiple times.
When the older boys returned from their trip without Wayne, the police were called right away.
Okay.
At 2:30 a.m. is when the searchers found Wayne.
Okay.
And his cheeks were still pink. How sad is that?
That's so sad.
It's so sad. Jack had to identify the body and was the one to break the news to Irene.
Ugh.
Jack told a news reporter the next day that identifying his son's body was the hardest thing he ever had to do in his entire life.
I mean, how does that not break a person?
Right?
Yeah.
Wayne's body was taken to be autopsied while his clothes and other evidence were passed on to the Ontario General's laboratory.
Okay.
Preliminary examination saw marks on his legs that suggested he had been kicked.
Like, why?
It's just like a sweet little...
I know.
Like, kids are so...
It's like...
Even if they're like
strangling
annoying,
him wasn't enough.
Yeah, you had to kick him and bite him
and then shit right beside him. Yeah. That's
shit right beside him? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, that's a low blow.
What the hell? Initially, Toronto police arrested and interrogated another boy called Ron Moffat.
Ron Moffat.
Remember the band, the Moffats?
The Moffats, I was just thinking
Were
that.
they a Canadian band?
Oh, I'd have to look that up.
Yeah.
Ron Moffat. That is a name.
It's a good name.
It's a good name.
Though through relentless questioning, they extracted a confession from Ron, who was 14 at the time. Ron did not do it, obviously.
Right.
Peter Woodcock was good for this crime. Ron did not do it. But the cops liked Ron for it, and I'll sort of explain a little bit why.
They wanted to, like, pin it on him?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, they liked him for... Yeah, they just like, you're the guy.
Yeah, you're definitely the guy.
You know how sometimes they, like, just zero in? They're like, you're the guy, even though the other guy's over here, like...
Yeah. He's definitely the guy.
Yeah. Ron Moffat was born in 1942, and he had 2 brothers, and his father, Omar, was a punch press operator. Omar and his wife, Bet, were drinkers, which caused them to fight quite a bit. By the mid-1950s, the Moffats had settled into an apartment in what was then a rough downtown Toronto neighborhood, now known as the Kensington Chinatown area. Do you know where that is?
In Toronto?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I probably have walked through it multiple times.
Yeah, I'm sure we have. Mm-hmm. Ron got along with his classmates and peers in the neighborhood. Complete opposite from Peter.
Yeah.
He generally recorded low marks at school, except in art, in which he always received A's, and in social studies.
I feel like that was me.
Yeah, right? That sounds like us as well.
Yeah.
When Ron was around 12 or 13, he and another boy were caught stealing money from the St. Lawrence Market.
Well, St. Lawrence Market, that still goes on.
Yep. And
still huge.
For our listeners that don't know, that's a center that sells food and crafts and still does today.
It's large right now for Christmas.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
It's probably so magical, though.
Mm-hmm.
Ron received probation and a furious reception from his parents after that.
Okay.
By 1956, 14-year-old Ron had smartened up and that summer had taken a job at the CNE. He was working at a ride called the Rotor, one of those gravity rides that spins fast and pins everyone to the sides.
Oh, yeah.
He was only 14 and he was operating a ride.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Ron held this position until Labor Day in early September, then went back to school where he was enrolled in the 7th grade.
I love carnivals and stuff like that.
I love carnivals.
I was just thinking of that ride and I'm just like, I can smell like the popcorn. Yeah. Popcorn and barf and yeah.
Popcorn, barf, hot dogs, slushies.
The good stuff, yeah.
Now I want a slushie.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started.
Slushie.
Oh, they're so freaking
That'd
good.
be so good. At 14, he was relatively athletic and 5'9". So he was lanky for his age.
Lanky, yeah.
He loved to play hockey but couldn't skate well because he had a poor sense of balance.
Dang.
What a cutie.
Just little lanky long legs, yeah.
He also couldn't ride a bicycle.
I picture him and I just picture his knees being really high and like just being gangly on it.
Yeah. But that's important for the case that he couldn't ride a bicycle because George, remember George the night watchman?
Yes.
Peter rode up to him and was like, shh, you ever what would you do if you found a dead body? So that's important to remember.
Yes.
Because Ron couldn't have possibly done that.
Because he didn't know how to ride a bike.
Doesn't know how to ride a bike.
Interesting.
After the movies on September 15th, 1956, Ron helped the theater owner change the marquee of the theater and then slept over at a friend's.
Okay.
The day after that, he woke up and went to school but skipped class for the afternoon. Ron's dad had expressed he was angry that Ron skipped class, so Ron didn't really want to deal with it, but he had nowhere else to go.
Right.
In desperation, he gathered some clothes and supplies and hid in a cupboard under the stairs in his apartment building.
Oh my
it's like
gosh.
It must have been big enough for him to chill in there. When his mother discovered he skipped school and didn't show up for dinner, she called the police and reported him as missing. Because remember, his parents were really volatile. They were always fighting. So Ron was like, look, I got my own little apartment.
Yeah, exactly.
Under the stairs. Ron still couldn't bring himself to face his dad, so he established a pattern. He would hide in the cubbyhole during the day, then work in the bowling alley from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. He ate at local restaurants with the money he earned and went to his hiding spot to sleep, bringing food with him.
Okay.
Still afraid to face his dad. Jeez, it's probably been like a week at this point.
Yeah.
Ron didn't contact his parents and remained in hiding. The police were looking for possible suspects when they came across Ron's missing persons report as he was still under the stairs.
Well, what does that say about his fucking parents?
Right?
He's willing to like just not budge and give in like almost a week.
Yeah.
Like, you're scary people then.
Yeah, you must be, if your own son doesn't want to come home, you're terrifying.
You're terrifying.
The more the police, so they found Ron's missing persons report, and the more they looked into who he was as a person and his like old rap sheet, because remember he did like steal money from the St. Lawrence market, but then he cleaned up and he got better.
Right.
Like he was like over it at that point. He got a job after that. Like he was trying to be a good kid. But they liked him for it because of his past crimes. There were witnesses that placed Ron at the movie theaters before and after the murder, though. And despite this, he was still found guilty and sentenced to a youth detention center.
No way.
So, like, fucking Toronto PD.
Yeah.
Eventually, police acknowledge there is a serial predator in Toronto, but they do not release Ron.
Okay.
Still.
He's just like, ugh.
When notes were shared between forces, it led the police to Peter, and he was arrested. Then Peter was arrested.
Okay.
After Peter's conviction, he was called as a defense witness for Ron. In 1957, the wrongful murder charge was stayed and Ron was released.
Okay, we like that.
Right. There was a book published in 2018 about Ron Moffat's experience called The Boy on the Bicycle by Nate Hendley. I did not read that. I did not have time to read it before this episode, but all the podcasts I saw who have also covered Peter Woodcock, highly recommend the book.
Okay.
So I feel like I have to also recommend the book.
Yeah.
His next murder, and something that's confusing about these murders, or just maybe the way the information is presented itself online, or maybe even just the way I put it together, I'm not quite sure. So, okay, it's 1956, right? Mm-hmm. When he kills Wayne, September 15th, 1956. That is when he kills Wayne. But then he commits another murder on October 6th, 1956. So that's not even a month later.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm just trying to get it. Okay, it's not even a month later.
Yeah, it's not even a month later. And again, he's riding he's riding his bike around Cabbagetown when he picked up Cabbagetown, yeah, I've been to Cabbagetown.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
When he picked up 9-year-old Gary Morris. He drove Gary Morris to Cherry Beach, otherwise known as Clark Beach Park. It's a lakeside beach park located at the foot of Cherry Street, just south of Unwin Avenue. This is where he strangled and beat Gary to death.
Okay.
So he was just 9. The coroner later determined that Gary had died from a ruptured liver.
My God.
Gary's body was found with a bite mark on his throat, and this time paper clips seemed to have been ritualistically sprinkled around them. Again, clothing had been taken off the victim, and then he had been redressed.
Okay, yeah, he's got a routine, this guy.
He has a routine. But then he waits. After this, for all we know, he doesn't murder somebody, but the next one he admits to is, and this is ultimately the one he gets tried for, is the murder of Carol Voice, and this is January 19th, 1957. Peter was again riding his bike when he approached a 4-year-old Carol and offered her a ride. 4, yeah. So he went 7, 9, then 4. He then drove her under the Bloor Viaduct, which is like, you know, those bridges?
Yes.
That's like a viaduct.
Oh, a viaduct. Okay.
Yeah. This is where he murdered her.
Oh, God.
When she was found, her clothes had been pulled off.
She's 4.
4.
Yeah.
It appeared she had been choked into unconsciousness, then sexually assaulted.
Oh, my God.
Her death was caused during an act of sexual assault with a foreign object, and that is all I think is respectful to say about her death.
Yeah, I would say that's about as much as... Oh, my God, she was so young.
She was so young. That's brutal. A 4-year-old. 4. That's a special type of monster. You know?
He certainly grew into one.
Yeah, totally. Witnesses saw a teenager cycling away from Carol's scene, and an accurate composite sketch was created based on those witnesses' descriptions.
Okay.
This sketch ran on the front page of the Toronto Star.
Really?
And would lead to Peter's arrest on January 21st, 1957.
Wow. And
his subsequent confession to all 3 murders. So it must have been so Ron must have been released after 1957. He must have spent a year in jail.
Yeah.
And then Peter would have been used as a witness to clear him after this.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking happened.
Yeah, and then the wrongful...
and then, yeah. He recalled upon his arrest and stated, this is Peter, "My fear was that Mother would find out. Mother was my biggest fear. I didn't know if the police would let her at me." So he was really only afraid of his foster mother.
Okay.
Well, because remember, he was a teenager.
Yeah.
Peter was only tried for the murder of Carol. So he wasn't tried for the murder of Wayne or Gary, which is really sad for those families.
Yeah.
On April 11th, 1957, after a 4-day-long trial, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity.
Really? And
was sent to the Oak Ridge Division of the Maximum Security Penetanguishene Mental Health Care Center in Penetanguishene, Ontario.
Wow.
So the Oak Ridge Center is now known as Waypoint Center for Mental Health Care. It's a 301-bed psychiatric hospital located on Georgian Bay.
Okay.
Oak Ridge, or New Building, the building itself was built in 1933 on the site of an old military garrison.
Okay.
It was referred to as the Oak Ridge Criminal Insane Building, and it served as a forensic mental health care unit for 81 years. So you can only imagine the atrocities that happened, like mental health care, the experimental...
Yeah.
You know, like, we should look into that.
100%.
As well. Like the mental health care practices of the 50s. I can't imagine they were...
I'd be interested in reading up on some of those. I mean...
Yeah. I can imagine so many human rights were being violated.
1,000,000%.
Starting on February 21st, 1933, with 152 beds, it was doubled in size in 1957 and was eventually demolished in 2014. Under Dr. Elliot Thompson Barker and Dr. Gary J. Meyer, the psychiatric center was notorious for the torture and use of LSD that led to its closure.
Really?
Yeah.
Torture meaning...
They were...
Like what? I want to know how did you abuse LSD?
Well, they would have, because you can...
Like inject...
Well, just give them too much.
Yeah, true. Trip them the fuck
and
out.
Trip them out, yeah. That would, that'd be psychological terrible. Torture for sure.
Yeah, psychological torture is almost... I'd rather you just like stab me.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd rather.
I don't know. I feel like
I'd rather my feet don't fail me now and I'm running out of there.
Yeah, if possible, for sure. But like psychological torture is just crazy because you're just trapped in your own.
Way harder to.
Yeah. Like from a physical standpoint, it's like
you can heal.
You can heal exactly from like a cut. Yeah.
Yeah. While imprisoned, Peter was diagnosed as a psychopath.
Okay.
So I think the difference, if I remember correctly, there's a sociopath and a psychopath.
Yes.
A psychopath genuinely does not know the difference between right and wrong.
Okay.
A sociopath knows the difference between right and wrong and doesn't care.
Doesn't care.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good way of describing it.
He underwent various forms of psychiatric therapy, including LSD treatments when they were popular in the 1960s. Peter has also been referred to by other podcasts as like the serial killer who couldn't be cured.
Well, at some point in his childhood, he must have broke. Like, how much abuse did that, did he have as a kid?
Yeah, we don't know what the foster parents did.
We don't know shit. And we do know that from like the age of 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then for every single year, something extremely traumatic happened to him.
Yeah.
Did he have counseling? Did he have therapy? Did he have, I want to know, like...
Besides the sick kids trips, was psychiatry, mandated for this child as it should have been? Was, there should have been maybe some mandatory supervision for the child.
Yeah, maybe, numbness was just developed and, you just, you know what I mean?
You just genuinely didn't know. When you're a toddler and you're being yelled at...
Yes.
You don't know context.
Right.
You just get the vibes.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean?
You get the vibes.
So when you're being abused as a toddler and you have no good support system to help you find the real life.
Yeah, and be told how this is wrong.
Yeah. How are you supposed to but your body knows it's wrong and your mind knows it's wrong because it feels wrong, but you're not being validated in that it's wrong.
Exactly. That's exactly how to put it. Yeah.
That's
so what does that do to a young... Yeah.
Well, it makes you Canada's youngest serial killer.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
He was also given other personality-breaking drugs such as scopolamine, which is also known as devil's breath and is basically something for motion sickness, nausea, and vomiting, and can be used before surgery to decrease saliva.
Okay.
Also, sodium amytal. It's a sedative and has hypnotic properties. Methadone or meth.
Nice.
And Dexamyl, which is a combination drug which was widely abused and no longer manufactured. He was subject to dyads as well, which is a personality-breaking therapy in which inmates challenged each other's belief systems, which inmates referred to as the 100-day Hayden. So they had to sit down and challenge each other's.
Okay.
Which I would hate that.
Yeah.
I would hate that. Dyads were developed in the early 1950s to early 1960s by a Harvard psychologist and former CIA interrogation and psychological warfare expert Henry A. Murray. Now, here's my hot take on men who think they are experts in psychological warfare. I guess you could, as a man, experience rape when it comes to psychological warfare, but I feel like it's far less likely.
It is far less likely. We all know
it
this.
It is more likely that a woman is going to experience... There are things worse than death, my friends, and rape is, I believe, to be one of them.
Yes.
And it is more likely that a woman would experience rape when it comes to... you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it comes to psychological warfare, actual warfare.
Yeah.
I just think a woman would more likely be an expert on that.
Just don't even get me started. I'm like, especially on American politics. But yes, I agree.
You know, because how can a man be an expert on it if he doesn't know all facets of it?
Exactly.
That's all I'm saying.
Unless he's gone through it himself. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Peter did not respond well to these treatments and was not an ideal prisoner.
It's a very sensitive subject.
Which?
Like rape.
Oh, yes.
You know.
I think where it is sensitive to victims of rape, I do think it needs to be more talked about.
Yeah, it definitely should be. I mean,
you know, I think it should be pretty commonplace for parents to just say to their sons, don't rape girls, because clearly we need to be saying that to our sons.
Yeah.
Like, don't rape.
Yeah.
Hey, when you go out drinking tonight, like, don't rape.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I know it's such a like
just
hush,
remember
hush. It's almost like a curse word.
Yeah.
Like, you don't ever want to say the R
if she's
word.
so drunk, she can't consent.
I mean, you can be demonetized for like using, that's why people say grape.
Yeah, grape.
But I get it. I get what you're saying.
I think there is, like, obviously we have to be sensitive to, but as women, we all know, you know?
So
Again,
nothing worked. So nothing worked for him.
Nothing worked for him.
Right. Okay.
Thanks for reeling that back in.
No, that's okay. I'm just, I got a sidetrack there.
He engaged in coercive sexual acts, exploited his fellow inmates who were often less intelligent or less sane than he was. Because remember, he's super smart.
Super smart. Yeah, aced every class. Yeah.
He convinced inmates that he had contact with an imaginary gang.
No, the gang.
This gang was called the Brotherhood.
Okay.
So he convinced inmates that he had contact with an imaginary gang called the Brotherhood on the outside, and that in order to be initiated, inmates had to perform oral sex on him and bring him gifts of cigarettes.
What?
I mean work, Peter, I guess.
Yeah, you got to give me a blowy.
I'm not condoning anything Peter did.
I need to smoke for after the blowy. So
exactly.
like, that's the initiation. Okay. Could be a lot worse, right? Right.
Right. And then after that, you're in the Brotherhood.
Then you're in the Brotherhood, an elite gang.
Peter was eventually transferred to less restrictive institutions and ultimately arrived at the Brockville Psychiatric Hospital. And you're going to see that was a mistake.
Could you imagine the inmates afterwards finding out that it was in fact imaginary after they had like performed?
Yeah,
and they're just like
And that, my friends, is what we call grape. Thank you.
Yeah.
Giving an example of grape without the violent context.
Yes.
Here, staff indulged Peter's passion for trains by taking him to the Smith Falls Runway Museum and even took him to see Silence of the Lambs. Like, weird flex.
That's a weird flex.
I don't
really
agree.
Silence of the Lambs.
Did they not know what he did? Or
yeah, maybe not the best movie choice.
During this time is when he changed his name to David Michael Kruger.
Okay.
And rekindled a relationship with Bruce Hamill, who was an Ottawa killer who had been released from Oak Ridge and was working as a security guard at the Ottawa courthouse. Bruce Hamill. What?
Oh my God.
He was an Ottawa killer and then working... What? Hold on. That's funny when I was doing... Notorious killer... Yeah. Whoa. We're going to do an episode on him, I think.
I'm intrigued.
Did you just hear what I said?
Yeah. Killer. Released... Security
at the Ottawa courthouse.
Courthouse.
Canada. I know we're lenient.
Yeah.
I know we're lenient.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, jeez.
That's just lazy.
Peter or David at this time.
No resume?
No problem.
Yeah, exactly. Says here that you potentially may have killed someone.
Here's a gun.
You didn't, and I'm just going to take your word for it. You're hired.
Peter, or David at this time, convinced Bruce that an alien brotherhood...
Oh, God.
This guy is a storyteller.
Yeah.
He convinced Bruce that an alien brotherhood would solve his problems if he helped kill another Brockville inmate called Dennis Kerr. And I'll let you know that the reason Peter needed help killing Dennis Kerr is because at this point in his life, Peter was like basically deaf and blind.
Okay.
Like, could hardly see. So he had to enlist the help of Bruce. On July 13th, 1991, Bruce Hamill went to a hardware store and he bought a hatchet, a plumber's wrench, knives, and a sleeping bag. He then went to Brockville Hospital and signed out the 52-year-old Peter/David on his first publicly escorted day pass. So they let, my God.
I can't.
Think about the layers of that for a second. They let a killer.
Convicted
Killer who is now a security guard at the courthouse. They let him sign out another convicted killer to take him for a day pass.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Do you think that they're going to go for ice cream?
Is that what, to the mall? They're going to go see, maybe they'll go to catch Silence of the Lambs again.
Maybe, yeah.
Oh my God.
Or maybe they're going to go scout victims.
Within the first hour of his first unsupervised visit in 34 years, Peter David arranged to meet Dennis in the woods. So within the first hour of his first unsupervised visit, he was ready to kill someone. When Dennis arrived, Peter David, just calling him Peter David.
Okay, yeah.
Peter David struck him in the head with a pipe wrench and continued to beat him into unconsciousness. Peter David and Bruce then seized the hatchet and knife they had hidden in the bushes while waiting for Dennis's arrival. They hacked and stabbed Dennis, mutilating his body, nearly severing his head.
Oh my God.
And he then sodomized the corpse.
My God.
Peter David then left the scene, walked to a police station about 2 miles away, and turned himself in.
Okay, well.
What the fuck?
Like, you're turning yourself in,
what
so it's like,
fuck?
So you obviously knew you did something that was, like, worthy of turning yourself in. So.
He's a very confusing man.
He's confusing me, and just fucking throw away the key.
Just, yeah. For the murder of Dennis, Peter David was transferred back to Oak Ridge, where he had spent the majority of his previous 34 years he had been imprisoned. Maybe he just wanted to go back. He was like, I just miss Oak Ridge. I need my LSD.
Yeah, my LSD.
I need my psychological torture.
Torture, yeah.
In the years after Dennis's murder, he was the focus of a biography and several documentary films.
No doubt. Sorry. Yeah, but no doubt. No doubt he was. I mean, this guy's a lot.
He's a lot.
Yeah.
And he sometimes tried to explain why he killed, but he could never come up with rational reasons.
Well, he made up an alien brotherhood.
Yeah, that's right. And the Winchester Bikes gang.
And you also made up like an initiation of getting a blowy.
Yeah.
And then cigarettes. So yeah, I would say yeah. But
that
it's
tracks.
like if you could come up with that.
Yeah, surely
you could come up with reasoning for your sadistic
No. He said in a 1993 interview, "I'm accused of having no morality, which is a fair assessment because my morality is whatever the system allows." I don't
really get that, but
I don't get it. I don't.
He's broken. Like he's just not.
Yeah, he's just not with it.
He's not whole. Like
he's not there. On March 5th, 2010, on his 71st birthday, Peter David died of natural causes.
Really?
Yep.
Natural
causes. But he died early.
Wait, so yeah, how old was he?
71.
Yeah, I mean, that's early seniorhood.
Yeah. That's just past retirement.
So his whole life was chaotic.
Bananas.
Yeah.
There was something always happening with him. And then he just like made it happen to himself.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as he could, he took his life into his own hands and was like, I'm going to make chaos for myself.
Yeah, but maybe it's also like, is it something like psychological where it's almost he's so sick that he finds some type of comfort in like torturing himself? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I know that exists.
It's like
because
the only way he feels is
yes. It's a theory. Like, I don't know. It could be possible. It would make sense. The Brotherhood.
The Winchester Bikes gang. He convinced so many people he had these gangs.
Yeah, I'd like the Winchester Bikes gang. That's like 500. Like
500.
Massive.
Come on, boys, let's go.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That is so funny.
Well, this was a good episode.
That was a great epi.
And just so you guys know, you can send us an email at CanadianCreepiespodcast@gmail.com, or I turned on a cool feature where you can actually just send us a text. So if you scroll down to like after my sources, you're going to see a little thing that says send us a text. Click on that. Send us a text. Let's hear your Canadian creepy.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. And if you want to hear back, we can't respond to those texts, so give me an email address and we'll send you an email back.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah, maybe you have one that you're curious about, like a case. We'll do the research for you.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Yeah.
Or we'll present the research in an entertaining, fun
exactly
way.
Yeah. I can't get over that Winchester. Okay.
All right. Thanks for listening. Don't let the bed creeps bite.
Yeah, creep it real.
And
Merry Christmas.
Oh yeah, Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year. But I think we'll see you guys, or talk to you guys before New Year's.
We'll talk to you in between.
In between
Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah, think of all those resolutions if you have them. Try and stick to some.
Stick to the resolution.
Like, shut up.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, true.
They're like, have you stuck to any? And I'm like, no.
No. Well, we try. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to Kyle McDonnell for editing and composing our theme song.